through an African park one day. I saw a sign say animals have the right of way. Wildlife, whatever happened to you're breathing so hot, a lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. You're moving so fast, but baby, you know not where. What's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo. Oh, oh, you'd better stop, 'cause animals everywhere. Man is the top, an animal too, and man, you've just gotta care. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. Breathing a lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. Oh, wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo. Wildlife, whatever happened to
Very cool. Okay, folks. How we all doing today? Okay. Hold on a second. Just do well, you're reading it right there. I wanted to thank those folks again, all of them, for that awesome intro to the show that I'm going to continue to use. I'm going to start it 5 minutes before the show. I know I never get tired of it. And every time I see it, I see something different. And I got to be honest with you, I was in a pretty decent mood here, and I'm sitting here watching that film, and I often comment about it, right? While it's going on. Sorry about that. And um, I'm going to comment on it again. This time, I'm looking at the animals, the eyes, and of course, I filmed it to make, I wanted the animals to be looking at the humans, looking at the humans, and like asking why. So it's really maybe it's been too long, or uh, that I've really tried to analyze the film, but all of a sudden, looking at these animals, and when I got to that little blue jay, which was actually a blue jay that was all caught up in kite string in a pine tree somewhere in Springs, hanging upside down. He was only a baby, and I got up there and we saved him. It was an easy save. And you just imagine if nobody had found him, and he'd have been died up there hanging upside down after super stress. But when that little bird looks at the camera, I just got an incredible feeling of it thinking, what the hell, guys? You know, what the hell? Folks, I just saw your article in the East Hampton Star. Of course, it's been posted all over, but about the deer count. Okay. Look, they called it the count once before. This is no surprise, folks. But we got to talk about this. We started talking about it before, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. And I actually answered. I had to write it in two different comments because I guess I overdid it, but it's pretty rough. And I just want everybody to understand that, it's real easy to point fingers and say, look, this is your fault, it's your fault, and your fault. But I got to be honest with you, folks. In this case with the deer out there in the East End, I hate to say it, it's everybody's fault. Okay? Your fault, my fault, everybody that's ever talked about it, discussed it, because you only took it so far and you didn't finish the job. And many of you, you didn't do anything. I mean, I asked people for 10 years to come with me and meet me at the town hall, but there was a couple of you that did it. Okay. Um, Maybe two that I can remember that were there almost every time. Okay. Hats off to Yuka Silvera. And I think Betsy Petrosky, I think, was the other one. I mean, and they were there to support me or research. They rarely spoke. Maybe Betsy did, but I'm the only idiot, I guess, that got up there after a hard day's work and rescuing animals all day and night, and forever trying to save these deer, and then I'm left standing in front of the podium trying to convince the town that us as deer lovers, um, you know, um, we need to do something, and we need to do something in a humane manner. But when one or two people are up there trying to convince people, and these guys knew I was calling people out, telling them, "Let's go, meet me down at town hall." In fact, there was one time, oh God, you bunch of folks made a ruckus. We'll be there. We're gonna be there. We're gonna be there. Not one of you showed up. Not one. Okay. And was I pissed off? You're damn right I was pissed off. Look, folks, I wasn't doing it for you. Okay. I was doing it for the animals. All right. And I continue to do it for the animals, but I'm trying once again to get through to you folks. But I'm not going to play games, and I'm going to bullshit this conversation into a fantasy land that people in the Hamptons are already living in a fantasy world. Okay? This is reality. There's no more options. You let it go too long. Get it? Okay? They're going to count them. They're going to cull them. And I don't know what anybody is going to do about it. And quite frankly, at this point, after speaking and researching the matter to no end with people who have been saying this way before me, and I used to get so pissed off at them, people like Carl Safina, probably one of the greatest, animal people. I should have connected with this guy more than anybody and had a great opportunity to do so. I've been at parties, in fact, where another great friend of mine tried to bring us together. But look, I didn't want to accept his theory. He didn't hate the deer. He was just trying to share his theory. And that theory is, okay, you guys don't know what deer are thinking, feeling, whether it's pain, emotion, you don't know it, okay? Unless you have a wildlife experience or you've had hands-on experience like the folks at Evelyn Alexander, or not just because you've had deer in your yard since you were a little kid, okay? Deer feel pain in such an incredible way. I could show you pictures, and I'm going to show you pictures because my last episode is going to be as brutally honest as I've ever been about this deer situation. And there's nobody on the East End right now who doesn't love those deer more than me. But no more bullshit because I'm going to tell you what your literal options are, not your fantasy world options, the real deal. Okay, let's get on with the show now before I pop a blood vessel. Today's show, my friends, and I'm so glad to see you on a Sunday. Okay, that was the Angry Five at 5 with Dell Cullum. Now we're going to get into the show, and it's not a long one, so don't worry about it. Once again, I'm trying to help you people, okay? But I ain't going to pull bunches. We're not going to, I'm not going to tell you something. Look, I'm not sugarcoating nothing. You're getting the honest to God truth 100%. No bullshit. And I've always been like that, and you folks know I have. Okay, common wildlife diseases that can spread to humans. Sound like a good topic? Damn right it is. Because on the east end of Long Island, you folks have a lot of these issues, okay? These are called zoonotic diseases, and they include rabies, Lyme's disease, hantavirus, West Nile disease, or West Nile virus, and tularemia. Tularemia? It's I know it more as rabbit fever, okay? But I've never actually been in contact with it. But I do want to bring it up because it was on a list of the common um, infections. So it's new to me. Maybe we'll learn something together. Infectious transmission is through bites and scratches. Okay. Or vectors. Now, a vector, in a better word in this situation, is a source. Okay. I'm sorry. My tooth is still just a little bother me. A source. Okay. So a source for a disease. What would that be? Well, you got you should know one of them. If they haven't already sheared up your legs or bitten you during the summer season so far, I think I'd say you're pretty lucky. But ticks, of course, are uh, infectious disease vector species, as well as mosquitoes. Okay, and yes, there is a certain group of animals. They're mammals that are more commonly easily can be infected and are often common carriers of it. And we know these animals as rabies vector species. Okay. And that would be, of course, our friend the raccoon, unfortunately, and our beautiful red fox is another one. And I know skunks are, and of course, the bats are. Um, and I believe coyotes were a rabies vector species at one time. That I could be wrong about. We're gonna have to ask Frank on that one. Um, I believe there might be another one in there, but I can't quite think of it off the top of my head. Folks, excuse me, I'm still a little under the weather. It's been a week now, as you can tell. I'm bundled up because I'm still a little cold. Felt felt better today than I felt in a while. So I got couple more days off. I think I can pull this off, and I'll be back on my feet in a couple days. Um, Meanwhile, I'm just I'm wearing a sweatshirt, and wearing a nice sweatshirt, right? My boy Chris over there, Montauk Tattoo. Okay, did a beautiful work on me from my shoulder to my hand. Him and his wife have a great place down there, Montauk Tattoo. I want to mention them. Okay, I'm also going to talk about a couple other ones because they're very important. Because when was on the East End, they were worth talking about because they were very common, um, if not a high risk for people in my field of work, which in this case would be either trappers, exterminators, or even people who are getting ready to find something that they realize they're gonna have to call either a trapper or an exterminator, and they don't handle what they find properly before calling somebody. Okay. So there's a good start right there, folks. You want to keep yourself safe. If you go into a basement and you see a lot of mice droppings or droppings that you don't know about, you certainly don't just want to go down with there with a vacuum or a broom and just start cleaning up like it's dust. Okay. We're going to talk about that a little bit. All right. Um, so we are going to talk about the ones that I mentioned, and the ones that I just said I'm going to add on is raccoon roundworm, um, better known to trappers like myself, Bailey sascaris, uh, Procyon, and Procyon just means it's raccoon. So the disease is actually just Bailey sascaris, and that is a roundworm, and it very dangerous. And we'll talk about that. Leptospirosis is very common, and when I explain to you how you get that, you'll certainly realize that is something to be concerned about. And of course, there will also be salmonellosis, um, for short, salmonella, and of course, we'll be talking about the turtle, handling a turtle, and that danger because that happens as well. Okay, people still see turtles in the water. Look, e- as a kid, if they see a turtle in the water and they get to pick it up and look at it and then nicely let it go, I have no problem with that. That's a kid learning about an animal. Okay, as long as they do things properly, I don't have a problem with that. But what's most important is that kid knows, or his parents knows, that he's going to need a nice handy wipe real quick. Okay, and then do that 2 or 3 times, and then maybe a little hand sanitizer before the kid has an inkling to put his finger anywhere near his face, including his eyes, nose, ears, mouth. Period. So, you know, it's a shame that we have to worry about these things. Most of us didn't when we were kids. Um, uh, but look, if we're all, if we're all here what didn't kill us made us stronger, right? Isn't that what they told us, guys and girls? Oh boy. Okay. Um, I do want to talk about that. The one thing we're not going to talk about today, um, besides deer culling or counting, as they're going to try and call it, uh, is the bird flu. Okay, because I have two super specials lined up for the end of the summer. That'll be August 30th, and then the following week, which will actually be the last Sunday at 5 show. Then we're gonna transition. I'm gonna just concentrate on the kids show on Saturday morning, and I'm gonna give you folks my time to talk if as long as you want me to keep talking and educating about this stuff um, once a month, which will be the last Sunday of each month at 5 o'clock. Okay, so uh, I'm going to leave you with two very powerful episodes. Okay. And the first one is going to be something like uh, East Hampton Town trustees mismanagement with the bird flu controversy. That's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to. Got a lot of information to show you all and talk about. And then, of course, I'm going to end it with the bang East Hampton Town deer mismanagement and why they now must die. And I'm going to have some special guests on here that are going to try, and I'm going to try to make this as least difficult and painless to my friends and family who care for the animals as I can. I'll do whatever I can. But the inevitable is here, folks. Okay? They're just playing games now. They're mixing words, but it's inevitable. All right. So we're going to start now with let's see, the first one we're going to talk about is rabies. Okay. Go to my media board and there we go. I had these all set up, but I've just been rambling away. This is our topic zoonosis, infectious diseases of animals transmissible to humans. And I'm sorry, uh, my tooth is really giving me a hard time today. Okay. All right. Rabies. All right, folks. Um, here's a uh, little graphic for you to look at. Rabies is a fatal infection, viral infection that spreads through the saliva, okay, through bites of mammals, particularly rabies vector species like we talked about, bats, raccoons, skunks, foxes. They show here cats, right? I guess cats and dogs because they're most commonly because they're around humans so much that they're the animals, okay, that tend to have interactions with humans. In fact, the majority of documented rabies cases are from dogs. Okay, mostly in other parts of the world, um, and it's a very serious viral infection, and it's so serious that when I moved here to Massachusetts, there was a time when Long Island didn't have an issue with rabies. Okay, you guys are now dealing with a recurrence. Okay, and unfortunately, it's in raccoons because they're the second species you're overpopulated with, and probably the second species that'll eventually need to be culled um, after they get done destroying um, the homes that are left vacant during the winter months. People will get fed up, believe me. Okay. Um, um, it shows you here that the symptoms are very serious. What I was going to say was because I was when I moved here in Massachusetts, um, there's a lot of that rabies is as prevalent as anywhere in the common wilderness. Okay, if it is there, it exists, and you have to be ready for it. Specifically in a field like mine, where uh, you're hands on with wild animals. Okay, and it's very easy to get scratched or bitten because these animals are most often traumatized. They're stressed out to their limits. They're injured. Oh, there's a variety of reasons, but basically because a human is preparing to put their hands on them, which they are absolutely not good with, and they will do anything they have to do um, to not be harmed because they don't know what your intentions are. So, I personally went and got my, as many folks do in my field. Fortunately, they have a pre-exposure shot, and it's 2 shots over a period of time, and then, you get your level checked, periodically, and then you'll get a booster. And look, this just protects you, it gives you more peace of mind if you're bitten by an animal that you don't know if it has rabies and then gets away. You've been bitten. You're trying to secure the animal. You got bit, and when it bit you, your reaction was to loosen your grip, which is not the proper reaction, but that takes time to learn, obviously. And a lot of these animals get away. So, look, folks, I know people that roll the dice on this, and they say, "Ah, didn't look sick." Okay? To me, there's never a question. You don't mess with rabies. I don't care if you just got a pinprick from an animal and you don't know, you should go get checked. Okay? All right, folks, hold on now. I'm now dealing with my cat who's curious. So, little, hey, come on, go lay down here. I'm doing my show. Everybody saw you. Everybody sees her. All right, the next one we're going to talk about, folks, we're going to blaze through these because you folks know the general ideas of this. I just want to remind you that these are zoonotic diseases and they exist on the East End and around the country, I guess, in certain ones. Okay, and you have to be aware. You have to be careful. This one is obviously Lyme's disease. Okay, you have the deer tick, black leg tick, and it shows you three. Uh, Shows you an adult female. Well, it shows you everything. I don't have to explain this to you. You folks know. You folks know the markings they make. You know. You've heard about the danger of Lyme disease. Okay. Um, Here's a little graph that'll show you the different rashes. But I think we're at this point now that if you pull a deer tick off you that's embedded itself in you, and you don't know how long, I'm sure you're not going to want to roll the dice on that. Okay. If you want to take a quick screenshot, this might be interesting to go over each one because I don't want to do that here. I have a lot to discuss, and I don't. Want to take too much time discussing certain things when you folks have a good opportunity to just click on this, screenshot it, and if you're really interested, um, I can guarantee you this information right here that I spent some time trying to find is good stuff for you guys to download and read later. Okay. Because this will tell you early localized, days or weeks after infection, disseminated weeks or months after infection, and then the late stage Lyme, which is months or even years after infection. Let me tell you, my oldest sister, Marilyn, was bitten by a tick way, way early stages of Lyme's disease in East Hampton. She lived on 114. Incredible woman. Strength beyond no measure. And I don't want to get too much into this because it's not easy to talk about, but she's no longer with us due to complications that I believe originally started from Lyme's disease. Believe me, certainly didn't help the situation. And all the medication that she was on for the pain of the Lyme's disease ended up causing even more issues. And this, again, folks, was early days. Okay. And they've come a long way. I don't know what that way is, but I'm sure folks that are real concerned about this, and particularly folks who research and study this or call themselves experts, like our dear friend Pat Hope, knows about this stuff. Okay. One more thing here I want to show you: Lyme's disease symptoms. Yeah, here's something I thought was interesting. Okay. A lot of people get these feelings when they're feverish or have mo a a moderate cold, perhaps. I gotta be honest with you, I've been sick for 7, 8 days now. I mentioned to Dee the other day, I was like, I don't remember getting bit, by a deer tick, but I certainly pulled a few off from hiking out in the woods. I almost feel like, you know, this could be the issue, and I was gonna talk to my doctor about it, and I will if I'm still feeling this way when I see him next week. So, anyway, next one I wanna talk about, um, is, another tick-borne illness, okay? An illness, that's transmitted by the vector called the tick, okay? These nasty little buggers. This tick happens to be called the Lone Star tick. And I know you folks know all about it as well. And their bite, when infected, can give humans the alpha gal syndrome, AGS, which is a serious red meat allergy. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk about this. I guess I want to show you something first. There we go. This is what I wanted to show you. It kind of explains um, how this happens. Okay. Uh, where is it? One, when a tick bites, it passes that sugar molecule called alpha gal into your body through its saliva. Okay. It's all there, right? Okay. Here's the thing. Um, I'm reading my notes and looking at the graphic at the same time. I can do that. It's my show. Okay. Your immune system may see that sugar molecule as harmful. Okay. And start reacting to it by producing antibodies. Okay. Here's the thing though, alpha gal is found naturally in non primate mammals. Non primate mammals are cows, pigs, lambs. You want to guess the next one? Goats. Okay. And also some mammalian products like milk or even gelatin. All right. So, as it says, and of course I'm reading this, when some people eat foods or foods products that contain alpha gal, their body will have that allergic reaction because they've been introduced that sugar molecule from that tick bite. Does that make sense? I think I probably might have been a little confusing on that, but maybe not. It made sense to me when I was looking at it the other day, and it still makes sense. It just it just seems like it's a catch 22 disease. Okay? because uh, you get bit by this animal and it puts something in your body um, that creates an allergic reaction. However, that same thing that creates that allergic reaction called the alpha gal syndrome that was given to you by the tick is also naturally in cow meat, pigs, lambs, and goats. So now when you eat the meat, the antibodies that have already been created to attack the sugar molecule alpha gal from the bite, it's still there. So you go to eat some meat, and now the antibodies turn around and start attacking the meat that you just ingested. Now, does that make a little bit more? I think I made more sense how I just explained it than this picture did. I bet if I said it again, it would probably come out much cleaner. But I think you folks might have got that. Okay. So I really think they should although alpha gal, and I don't want to lighten this at all because this is serious and it's painful, but I think it should have a secondary name and it be called the Catch-22 disease because it really sneaks up on you and uh, um, takes one of the most commonly favorite things of people as far as food, and it can just make it allergic to you by using the same chemical sugar molecule in the food. Oh boy. Okay. Let me see. Let's alpha gal syndrome. Okay, the tick bites 1 to 3 months. IgE to alpha gal increases. Okay, so it can take 1 to 3 months for it to create an allergic reaction from consuming alpha gal contained food, which we discussed already. Cow meat, pig meat, goat meat, lamb meat, or sheep, lamb. Yeah. And then after you eat the food that you hopefully know you're now allergic to, most people don't even know they have the disease until they have the allergic reaction, which comes usually 2 to 6 hours after you ingest the food. Now, in a lot of cases, this is a dinner time where people sit down, they eat a meat meal. If they're meat eaters, wouldn't that make sense to say? Now, figure, I don't know, 2 to 6 hours certainly falls in a time where folks might go to bed after they eat. So imagine waking up somewhere in the night after having been asleep, suffering from an allergic reaction. And if you don't even know what caused it, it would create quite a bit of panic. So I think it's good to know about these things, folks. And that's why I talk about it. A lot of you might say, gosh, we know about this stuff. Okay. Well, if I can reach one person that doesn't and it helps them, or if I tell you one bit of information that you didn't happen to know about, you thought you knew everything, but together we learned something new, then why not? That's what I say. Okay, let's move on because the next one's pretty serious, right? Hantavirus. Now, anyone who's lived on the east end of Long Island for a couple decades, maybe how long it's been. I hate to think it's been that long. Many folks might remember the vet in Montauk um, who passed away from hantavirus. And um, it just goes to show that even when you are well aware and you think you might be doing the right things, it's absolutely necessary uh, that you double check yourself and you don't take shortcuts. Folks, that really applies to all of these diseases. Shortcuts, shortcuts gives the odds to the disease. And in 99.9% of the time, you give the odds to the disease will win. Believe me, folks, okay? 4 rodents are known to carry the hantavirus. There's your deer mouse, you got your house mouse, mus musculus, the roof black rat, Rattus rattus. That's one you won't forget, believe me. Um, go around now because it's so fun to say. It's an easy one to remember, that genus name, but it's one that I've always had fun with going um, to parties or whatever and saying, they'd say, Dell, do you know anything about how to handle a rat problem? And I'd be, you mean Rattus rattus? And they'd look at me like, geez, you know your shit. And I'd be like inside laughing because how can you forget Rattus rattus being the genus name for the rat? Boy, if you're going to give me credit for that, I got something you're going to want to give me an award for. Okay. And then, of course, the Norway rat, folks. Excuse me. I'm so sorry about that. Um, Look, folks, you have all of these, okay? And you are never going to exterminate all the rodents. So for those folks who are so set on using rodenticides, which I'm going to get to you sooner or later, you can guarantee it. But those of you who are still set on that kind of stuff and hiring exterminators rather than fixing the hole in your foundation and wondering why the exterminator's been coming to your house for 5 years, okay, because you just bought them a house. Um, yeah, folks, you got you got to realize you're never going to get rid of these critters. They procreate much faster than you can even think of solutions to get rid of them. And no matter what you see on the shelves, okay, half of them are going to kill everything else, including pollinators, birds, good mammals, cats, dogs, and even if your child or a neighbor's child goes and picks up a nice chunk of rodenticide and starts chewing on it because it's made of wax and bird seed, okay? Um, yeah, yeah. You got to realize none of that stuff is going to eliminate the rodent population. That's here to stay, especially on Eastern Long Island, living in the water glass. Okay. You're at a water glass. You're surrounded by water on 3 sides, right? These animals are at the bottom. They don't know where to go, and they're just going to keep growing and growing, folks. This you have to take care of. I've cleaned more houses, more attics, more basements, and I'm talking huge mansions in the Hamptons, Further Lane, Gin Lane, Lily Pond Lane, all the lanes out there, all the big names. I've done them all, and I've cleaned their homes after I'd done their jobs. And they whether they were infested or not, okay, they had situations that needed to be remediated. And I did it all. And I did it in the safest way that was absolutely possible. Okay? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Folks, don't go into a enclosed area with no ventilation. Okay, or let me put it this way. If you have mouse poop to clean up, all right, in a basement or anywhere, you need ventilation, you need gloves, you need a mask, you need a spray bottle full of water or ammonia, okay? And you need a dustpan, and the best thing to use if it's a smaller area is a whisk broom. but no big room, small, because you're going to be making small dragging strokes. You're not going to be sweeping. You're going to be swifting that poop into one container, one area, and then you're going to remove the pile in one move. Okay. And it's not over there, folks, because there's residuals that you won't see or you will see. There'll be staining. Maybe there's some urine mixed in the poop. Okay. So that needs to be cleaned up too. And again, look, I'd have you wear a Tyvek suit and a respirator, to be quite honest with you. And I wouldn't do it. Well, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. All right. Serious stuff. Okay. Because you get hantavirus from small particles of poop that get airborne either from sweeping, either from a draft or opening a door and allowing a draft to come in and blow it up off the floor. Or in the worst case scenario, a shop vac or any vacuum without a internal filter or a HEPA filter. I mean, where do you think the exhaust is going to go? I used to use a garage unit with 30-foot on both ends to make sure that the exhaust was well out the window and yards away. Okay. And then into a bag, a burlap bag. And then I'd have 30 feet to work with in the house so I didn't have to move the unit and create any difficulty. Folks, it's the right way to do everything. All right. So, yes, you can't breathe this stuff. If it gets into your lungs, small particles, you breathe them in, no bueno. Bad news. No good. Okay? So please be careful, folks. If a veterinarian, and he was a smart guy, so I've heard, I honestly didn't know him, but I was devastated to hear it because certainly he knew the risks. I don't know the whole story, but it's not the first death from Hanta that I've been exposed or I've known about. Okay, I've been in the business for a long time, so I hear things, I read about things, and they make me double up. They make me double up my protection efforts. Okay, folks, really, you don't want to mess with the hantavirus. Bad news. Okay, virus. Let's see, climate. Well, let's see. How are we going to say this? What is this? Favorable weather increases the food supply. Okay. Increase in bank vole population. Right. Okay. I see what this is saying. So just as I was talking to Dee the other day, she was saying how many more acorns she was seeing on the ground. We really haven't seen them for a couple of years. Well, of course, we know that's a sign that there's going to be more vole and mice activity. Okay. And this will you know, raise the risk. Now, you can get bit by a mouse who is carrying the virus, the hantavirus, okay? Or again, through airborne mouse feces and urine. Okay, not easy to get that urine to be airborne, although, as I said, when it's there after you clean up the poop, it does have to be removed. Whatever method you do it in, make sure it doesn't include anything that will absorb the urine and then become airborne, right? Makes no sense. And you say, well, geez, that's kind of silly. How would that happen? Really? I don't think you need to ask me that. Okay, let's just see. One more little thing here. Avoid disturbing dusty sheds, barns, attics, and other confined spaces that may have rodent nests. You got mice issues in your home, you have hantavirus risk in your home. And I pretty much think that, oh, I got to say that there is not one house I have ever been to that was rodent free. I don't care who you were. Okay. Everybody has mice. Unless you were one of those people who were smart enough to go out there and create a barrier around the house, like we've talked about, and made sure all the openings around from the construction of your house were sealed properly and didn't allow any entrance. Because you allow one entrance, size of your pinky, mouse gets in, that's it. Now you have now you have mice in your house. You have poop in your house. You have a hantavirus risk. Okay, folks. When you clean this stuff, I can give you examples of what to do. But quite frankly, I prefer you call ServPro. I really do, because things can get real bad. You don't want to do any cleanup without covering your vents. You want to make sure mice haven't been in your vents. Certainly, that would make it very easy for old poop or a piece of poop that slipped into your vent, floor vent, is now going to get circulated, maybe chopped up in a fan and then blown out of the another vent. Whatever, folks, don't take chances. The professionals, they come in, they cover all your vents. Okay, your intakes, your floor vents, your ceiling vents, whatever. Okay, they cover everything because they don't want one speck of residual to affect you later. Let the professionals do it. Okay, smaller jobs. You got a smaller job you want to do? Give me a shout. Okay, we'll talk about it. But really, folks, care too much about you to go messing around with mouse poop or rat poop. Okay, either one, vole poop, any poop. Stay the heck away from poop. Thank you. That is my tip of the week. Stay away from poop. Okay, now we have tularemia. Tularemia. Tularemia, as known to me, was rabbit fever. And like I said, I have never been, I've never experienced rabbit fever or knew anyone or any rescue or rehab operation that did. Maybe they did. Maybe it's common for them. I don't know. Just something I never did. Okay. Um, but it's also a general reason why, as much as I love my bunnies and Chomper and little Chomps and mini Chomps and every Chomp out there and the chippies and the birds and everything. Okay. I don't have them. I don't get them to where I have to touch them. That's not my interest. Okay. Do I want them close by and trusting me so I can sit down and have coffee with them and watch them just sit there and have the trust to nibble on some corn near me and create a little bond like that? Absolutely. But I have no interest in touching Chomps, picking them up, cuddling, and then giving a scratch between the ears. Not my intention. Okay. Now, if you want to talk about gray squirrels, that's a different story. but that I shouldn't say that because that's not good either. But it was a risk that I took because I love the gray squirrels. Okay. Yeah, lagomorphs, rabbits, um, they get bit by ticks, deer flies, and then they become in contact with humans, and I guess that's how they pass the tularemia. Um, and then it shows you on the other side, I guess, um, shows voles here. Oh, there's a type A, I see, which is the rabbit fever side. And type B is also a direct contact, but also uh, contaminated soil or water. Okay. So maybe it's contaminated from rats or voles or mice peeing in the soil or the water. And, or as it shows here, the mosquito, okay, bites a rat or a mole. And I would suspect the rabbit, but maybe not. Maybe that's up for the deer fly alone as it's shown. But regardless, the mosquito is a vector here um, that can bite an animal, get the disease, and then pass it to humans by biting the human. And I see now it's the same with a deer fly, which is interesting because we get deer flies here and we get bit by them when we go out on our hikes. It's quite annoying, but you kind of get used to it. Never knew that this was something to be concerned about. So it's actually, this is the stuff I love, folks, and I tell the kids this because the kids, we do this all the time. We get these topics or suggestions, and I want to learn too. So certain things I know nothing about, like tularemia, but I wanted to add it so that we can learn it together, and that's what we just did, kinda. And, that's kinda cool, right? Alright, here we go. Oh, here we go. Tularemia, rabbit fever, an acute infectious disease of wild rabbits, rodents, and humans caused by bacterium Francisella tularensis, which is also known as the rabbit fever. I don't wanna say that word anymore. It's messing up my teeth. Um, you it can be, it can be transmitted through inhalation of contaminated aerosols or agricultural dust, contact with infected animals, eating undercooked rabbit meat. Honestly, I don't know anybody who still eats rabbit meat, but I guess there are people who do. Drinking contaminated water or bites by deer flies, ticks, and mosquitoes. So apparently, the vectors of tularemia or rabbit fever would be deer flies, ticks, and mosquitoes. That's interesting. I'm going to have to file that in my mental um, filing cabinet for future discussion. Okay, and actually, this stuff is exactly what they just said, except on the right. What are the symptoms? Common symptoms: fevers, chill, headache, muscle aches. If infected by a bite, cut, or scratch, usually causes skin ice ulcers and swollen glands. Interesting. And if infected by inhaling dust, it'll cause cough, chest pain, difficulty breathing. Okay, and of course, if you drink it, they say sore throat, tonsillitis, stomach pain, diarrhea, and vomiting. So bad mojo, folks. All right, we got to move along because I'm going to have to go soon. All right, but we have the West Nile virus. Okay, that's the mosquito. How does that spread? Bird to mosquito, mosquito to bird. Okay, then the mosquitoes, infected mosquitoes can spread West Nile virus to people and animals. I like how they have the horse here because they're very commonly bit by West Nile infected mosquitoes with West Nile virus. Cows as well. So, um, but birds are most often considered um, a target from the mosquito vector, and also they become the vector themselves after eating the infected mosquito. Okay, another little catch 22 there in the West Nile universe of illnesses. Okay, so it's not always only bird flu that's out there risking health to our bird population. Okay, folks. So when you hear about West Nile virus being an issue near you, that's when you need to be concerned about your bird buddies. I know I have a lot of friends out there on the East End. Oh, and around the country. Are you kidding me? Even in Canada, cousin Jane loves birds. So we want to make sure all these animals are safe. Okay. All right. What we're looking at here is a raccoon roundworm. Okay. How'd you like that thing floating around behind your eye, or maybe uh, doing a little exploration inside your brain? Okay. Well, that's the problem with this little bugger because it absolutely creates a encephalitis type of a sickness. Okay. Beta ascaris is a parasite. Okay. Um, the way you get it, humans, and this is why it's very concerning to me, and definitely something that I need to discuss for you folks on the East End, is because, of course, it starts with raccoons, but it's in their poop. Okay. And not just the worms, the eggs. So long after the poop has been left in your attic, say, for example, and dries up, and years and years later, you go down there and you got this dry lump of you don't know what kind of poop it is, but you start swiping it into the bag of garbage or whatever you're doing not properly. Okay. And you're making flakes come up, and you maybe get a piece in your eye and you rub your eye and you put your finger in your mouth, whatever the case, folks, you get this stuff in your mouth and you ingest it. You don't have to worry about breathing this stuff. You ingest it, you're in big trouble. Okay? This is again bad mojo. Doesn't matter if the poop's old or new. These eggs lie dormant in old poop for a very long period of time. Even when that poop falls apart on yards and gets mixed in with the soil after a rain, you don't even see it. It's out there, and your kid gets out there and he's playing in the dirt, throwing a ball or a frisbee, and he happens to get his finger in it. Then he puts his finger in his mouth. It's that simple, folks. And if you don't think it's that simple, you're in big trouble. Because again, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes, thousands of homes that I removed raccoons from your attics are always left with the poop and the roundworm. Okay? You don't pay me to get rid of that. Well, some of you did, which was smart, but most of you thought it was uh, the trapping fee was quite enough and they didn't need to worry about the remnants. All right? So worry about it, folks. Okay? This will kill you. It will kill you. I'd say it's as bad as far as, well, as bad as rabies. Let me tell you, you'll be sick from this in ways that rabies wouldn't get you sick. Okay, take a screenshot of this, folks. It's very important because you need to see this and learn about it, talk about it, look at it later. God forbid you happen to see a worm-like thing behind your eye, and you have an issue in your attic with raccoons, and you're running ceiling vents, heat, or air conditioning into your home. Oh God! Please see a doctor as soon as possible, please. All right, folks. Leptospirosis. Okay. Leptospira bacteria is from animal urine. Okay. And that's why I want to mention it, because it's pretty much all urine from an animal. Okay. I guess I could probably do some research to confirm whether or not there's one or two um, that don't carry uh, the leptospira bacteria in their urine. Um, but look, if you got a cut on your foot, you're walking barefoot, and you step in an area where a squirrel just took a leak on your lawn, a good chance you're going to get leptospirosis. And you're going to have a high fever. You're going to have chills. It'll be something you won't forget, but it probably won't keep you from walking out in the yard in bare feet again. To be honest with you, there's so many things, folks, you gotta watch out for. Isn't that kind of sad? But hey, it's the way it is. Rats, mice, squirrels, raccoons, skunks, possums, livestock, cattle, pigs, horses, even your pets. Okay, cats and dogs. Don't handle their urine if you got cuts on your hand. Don't give the urine an opportunity to enter wounds on you. That's how you get leptospirosis. Okay. So the mammalian is the reservoir through their pee, and of course it can contaminate water, mud, soil. So once it's on the ground, those things become vectors of the disease now as well. Your yard becomes a disease vector, so to speak. But I'm just kind of being light, I guess, when I shouldn't be, I guess. Folks, the last one. Then I got to zoom out of here, okay? Turtles and salmonella. All right. All you got to know is I told you before, if you got a little kid, he's interested, wants to hold a little turtle, or if he has a pet, even if it's a red-eared slider, that's a pet. Of course, you know that when that thing grows up and the kid doesn't want the thing anymore and you don't want it anymore, you're absolutely not going to release it in the town pond or any other water body on the east end of Long Island, because that would make you a very, very bad person, because you'd be hurting both the turtle, all the other turtle population of painted turtles and all the beautiful turtles that are native to Long Island. You will be hurting them by putting one invasive turtle into a water body on the East End or anywhere. So before you even think of adopting one, that's what you got to be aware of. So what are you going to do? Look, you bring it back to the pet store, they'll take it because they're going to sell it again. But don't ask to be paid for it. You paid the price, okay? You paid the price. Now you got to give it back. If you don't want it anymore, you got to give it back and not expect a penny in return. Then you're a good person, okay? A smart person and a very thoughtful person who cares about wildlife. Because why? Wildlife matters. Listen, folks, tune in next week. I got one more calm show before I start to blow my top. Okay? But I'm only being fun with you folks, all right? We're going to have a serious discussion, and I'm going to beg you for your understanding, and I'm absolutely want to hear what you have to say. And I'm going to make that an option for the show. And the show's going to have no time limit. We're going to keep talking about it until maybe I can have you folks not feeling so down about this. That's my intention. I don't want you to suffer the emotional pain as well. But folks, the time has come. Okay. All right. Let me just do this real quick. Oh my goodness, where am I? Here we go. And then, guys, you're great. I appreciate you coming here and chatting with me. Come in next Saturday or next Sunday, kids show next Saturday. We're going on a hike. Saturday at 7 a.m. But next Sunday, we're going to talk about animal classification. be a real interesting show because I've written it to be a little